Hi, I'm Robert Hooker. I'm the blogger behind Share the Point, where I talk about collaboration and social media. And I'm giving a presentation today for Total Social Media, where I'm giving an introductory reading list for people who are interested in what you could call cyber studies, cyber anthropology, social media studies, or web studies. This is a field that's so new it doesn't even have a name. But it's an area where more and more people are starting to think about wanting to look at what is the social interaction with the internet, how is the internet as an event, as a social event, changing us as a civilization, and potentially how could it change us as a species even. And on that, I want to talk about the first book recommendation I'll give is David Levy here. David Levy's book is Love and Sex with Robots. This is a very, very good overview for an argument by David Levy, who mostly is an expert in artificial intelligence and actually chess computer programs, talking about how humans will form relationships with robots. Now, the title does sort of stands out there. You might notice that I have a fold here because when I read the book on the train, I always fold the edge down because a few too many people have asked me what is that I'm reading. But this is really a great overview about the kind of intimacy of the relationship human beings have with machines. I mean, I think too often computer designers think about gadgets in terms of user interfaces. And if you want to start thinking more in terms of how deep and intimate the relationship between human beings and computers can be, this is a book for you. Now here's another book from O'Reilly. It's Morville's Ambient Findability. And this is an O'Reilly book. As you see, it's not a very thick book. And for those of us with attention deficit disorder, it's got lots and lots of pictures in it. I'll say that I have yet to hear a term or concept brought up either in the internet, social media, or collaboration that isn't discussed or clearly defined in this book. If you can only buy one book this year on social media, definitely make it this book. This book is quite a one. Now here's another breakthrough book. It was Scrubble and Israel wrote Naked Conversation. Once again, building on the theme that geeks like to write books that sound like they're about sex. This one really isn't about sex. It's about how blogging works and how blogging may or may not change the nature of business. I'm not sure I completely agree with the premises here, but the book is a classic, and it probably is the most definitive book on the blogging culture you can get out there. Okay? The next book kind of takes it in a different direction, is a bit critical. It's called Wiki World. Okay? Wiki World by Julia Adjua, and I believe this is pronounced Saranta, and then Vadine, Tara Vadine. But the book is Wiki World. Wiki World takes a very critical, probably left-wing sociological point of view, looking at how the internet is impacting society and the world. It's very critical. It doesn't hold any punches, and I found it extremely insightful. Okay? Going to the other extreme, you probably know this, is Wikinomics. The only reason I can recommend this book, Wikinomics, is so that you techie people out there can know where your suits, when they come in and talk about Web 2.0 and collaboration, got these stupid ideals. It's a summary of how Web 2.0 it can work, but it's not really the best book. You probably need to have it in your collection, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a long read. Now, once again, on the ideal of really radical thinking about the internet, this is Donna Haraway's book, Simians, Cyborgs, and Women. The key essay in here is called the Cyborg Manifesto. Okay? The Cyborg Manifesto, I mean, I really want to put pop for Haraway because I just think she's great. Her main premise in this is that the internet opens the opportunity for human beings to potentially redefine roles and binaries of gender and sexuality. Not quite sure if that's happening. In fact, all of my research in Second Life has indicated that quite the opposite. When people become machine human cyborgs, they tend to go for aggregated, gender accentuated gender identities. Women become bigger breasted, men become more muscular, people become more gendered than maybe they are in real life. But this book really does go into the example. Also, the picture on it's rather unfortunate. I'm not sure why they've kept that picture, but the ideals in it are pretty extreme. Just a warning out there, she is a Marxist. I know she's a Marxist. I'm telling you she's a Marxist while I recommend it, so I certainly hope that I don't get any hate mail about me promoting a Marxist on this. Yes, she's a Marxist. If you won't read any Marxists because they're Marxists, then forget about this book. Continuing with Marxists, now once again, these names, the only names I find harder to pronounce than French names are Italian names. But this is a Deleuze, and I believe his name is pronounced Guattari. Okay? But you can see there, everyone, just go to the Deleuze section of the bookstore. He's the more famous one. This is 1,000 Plateaus. This book is a very tough read. And you'd probably be better off, I don't even know if I'm ready to read it. I've been trying to read it for years. You might be better off just reading about this book. But this is a book that introduced concepts like the rhizome, and lots of people who are into thinking about the internet, thinking about how the internet changes space, changes social reality, reference this particular book as having a lot of the key concepts that they've applied. The key one is the rhizome. The rhizome being a network. It isn't a hierarchy. It isn't really a network, but it's a system where all the components are constantly forming connections to each other, potentially where every node is connected into every other node to such a point where even node and connection even loses its meaning. This is examined very deeply in this book, and it's one that people who are into web sciences and web studies are constantly referencing. Now, for my last pick for right now, just as a science fiction book, when I say something, this is Neal Stephenson's. Now, everybody talks about Snow Crash as the great book that Neal Stephenson wrote about virtual reality and the internet. But this is the Diamond Age. Now, the Diamond Age is actually a book about nanotechnology, but the internet plays a massive role in this book. Now, not only did I enjoy this book a lot more than I enjoyed Snow Crash, I actually think that the ideals that he has here on the web are a bit more advanced. That's just my opinion. I also think there's a lot less of the ongoing, in Snow Crash, you get to hear how much Neal Stephenson has read about Babylonian and ancient Hebrew mythology. This one cuts more to an interesting reimagining of the world, which I really, really liked. And it's also, you know, people talk about Snow Crash all the time, Snow Crash all the time. So I want to leave you with a recommendation here. If you want to go read a science fiction writer, somebody who's going to give you the imagination, and you all know about neuromancers, and you probably have all heard about Snow Crash here, I'd really recommend The Diamond Age. It's a fantastic read. You can actually download it for your iPad. I have it on my iPad. Warning there, if a meeting runs a bit too long, I have the ability to get it on my iPad, so, you know, there's always a chance of me actually reading sections. I probably read this book 5 times now, and I really, really, really love it. I think it's not just about the internet. He also talks a lot in here about how culture might form into different tribes based around identity, which is a really key issue in web sciences, about how people might use the internet and the advanced technology to organize themselves not around geographical bases, but around lifestyle issues and cultural issues. That's definitely something that the Deleuze book has, and all the other books are in the cover there. Now, I think that's probably give you, if you're going to read those books, admitting that the Deleuze book is going to take anybody years and years to get through. You've got about 6 or 8 months worth of good solid reading there, but I think if you read those books, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what anyone who calls himself a cyber anthropologist or a web studies scientist or whatever they're calling themselves this week is actually saying. Once again, I'm Robert Hooker. Thank you, and good luck to you.